Welcome to Appalachian Outdoors, your go-to spot for all things hunting, fishing, camping, and everything in between. I'm your host, Russ Cassidy, and along with co-host Devin Kidd, we'll be coming to you from the heart of the mountains where the woods are deep, the waters run clear, and adventure is just a trail away. Whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just starting to explore the wild, we've got tips, stories, and gear talk to help you make the most of every moment outside. So grab your boots, pack your tackle, and let's head into the wild together. Hello and welcome to another edition of Appalachian Outdoors. I'm Russ Cassidy, your host and regional editor of Appalachian Newspapers. Next to me is Devin Kidd, co-host and Appalachian Newspapers outdoor columnist and Floyd County Chronicle and Times staff writer. So
nothing's changed.
Oh, no, and I'll always list the outdoor columnist first because it's most important, which you should be seeing Devin's column in some of our other papers as well as the Floyd County Chronicle. So be on the lookout for that. We're trying to spread that out far and wide, and I'm sure people will find some interest in that. I wanted to take a little time today to talk about an incredibly nerdy topic,
but important.
It can be. I mean, look, can you go fishing, grabbing a rod, going out, line, putting the lure on it, putting the bait in the water, and you go? Yes. Okay, you can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do that. However, especially if you're limited on time, like I am, like you want to increase or have the best chance of success possible. And one of the ways to do that, especially if you're fishing tailwaters, okay? If you don't know what a tailwater is, that's the water down below a dam. In our area, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers does manage the dams, okay? So they also on their websites list information about the waters that are coming into their lakes and out of their lakes. And this is where it kind of gets important. And this is where you can, it's no guarantee of success or failure, but it can increase the chance you'll have a better day on the water if you look at it.
At the end of the day, if you've checked that and you go out and have a bad day, at least you can say, I do feel like some odds was there. I didn't waste my time back home.
Right.
Of course, there's no such thing as a bad day, but you know what I'm saying. Help your odds.
So what you should see right now, beside me is a chart that shows the flows at Fish Trap Lake on the morning we're doing the recording of this podcast. Now, to understand flow a little bit in CFS, and I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible to understand, the way it was explained to me was CFS is cubic feet per second. That's how fast water moves. But if you want to think about it, a cubic foot's about the size of a basketball, okay? So if something says it's running at 10 CFS, you can imagine 10 basketballs lined up side by side flowing down per second. So 10 basketballs, 10 basketballs, 10 basketballs. If you see 1,000 CFS, that's 1,000 basketballs lined up side by side. And that's a measurement of flow, right? That gives us an idea of what the water's doing. So if you look at this chart, there's a lot of information on there. Number one, at the top, you'll see the lake level. Okay, this is Fish Trap Lake. This is where it's at. At the bottom, you'll see a chart that has two pieces of information on it. In green, you'll see the flow into the lake from the headwaters. In other words, whatever rain has come down, here's how fast that's flowing into the lake. And even if you're fishing the lake, it's good to look at that because if you see, 1,000, 3,000 CFS coming into Fish Trap Lake, there's a good possibility that water's going to be muddy when you get out.
I would imagine.
Because almost all of our waterways are so sandy on the bottom. Now, if you look at the tailwater measurement, and you can see on this chart, it says that Fish Trap's currently releasing, and this is the pink line, about 150 CFS. Okay, so 150 basketballs side by side per second are flowing from the dam into the water. Now, that's a big waterway. Okay, so you can look at that and you can say, that's basically standing still. And my son got out on Fish Trap yesterday at these measurements, and yeah, it was pretty much at a standstill. That's barely running water at a lake that size.
Right.
Now, in comparison, if you look at a place like Paintsville Lake, which is a dam on a creek instead of a river, 150 CFS is going to look very, very different.
Yeah.
It's going to be hitting the top of the flood stage, But to come back to fish trap, now you look at this and you say, okay, it's running at 150. I could probably go down there and sight fish. And that's exactly what my son did. He went down there and he could see. He said that the carp were aggressive as bass, and he hooked into a bass. He didn't get it to hand, but he hooked into a bass that was probably the biggest one he's ever hooked into.
Mm.
The fish, in most cases, when the water's low, are going to be a little bit more aggressive. Sometimes they get pressured, but you can bet the lower it is, sometimes the better success you can have. Now, if you go in there and again, it says 1,000 CFS is being let out of that dam, that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to have,
and that's what they're letting out.
You're going to have a hard time getting any lure down. I mean, even if you're fishing with heavy, heavy, heavy stuff, it's going to be hard to get that down in the column where the fish are because they are going to be tied to the side. They're going to be looking for cover. You're going to have a hard time. So again, these lower flows are better. Now, the next chart is a predictive or forecast map that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This is all available on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers website, and it's all constantly updated. This forecast gives you an idea what's it going to look like tomorrow at this point. Now, if 5 inches of rain comes in overnight, everything changes. But as of right now, with the conditions that exist, you can see this and look and say it's going to be about the same tomorrow.
The lake weather app.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So then you can look at that. Now, if you go to the next chart, you can look at this shows what Paintsville Lake's chart would look like, and you can see the difference in the size. Again, every dam in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Huntington District, and you can also get maps in the Louisville District as well, it is in there. And so if you look at this, you can get a good idea of what the water looks like close to the dam. As it comes on down, for example, in Pikeville, it's going to have add up because you got different water bodies flowing into it. But I'm just talking about close to the dam, the tailwaters. You're going to have a pretty good idea of what that looks like. So learning that and learning and keeping track of these things and, even taking notes when you go out fishing. Here's what the weather was like. Here's what the CFS was.
Here's what the fish were doing while that was.
This is how you really learn to become intuitive about fishing. You remember this old man when you were little that would just say, yeah, today's a good day to go fishing because they were measuring the barometer.
Then they go on for 5 minutes about.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. This is just a scientific way of doing it. Now, if you look at this last thing, this is just a sampling of the information that's available on that website. One of the things that I wanted to call attention to here is the water temperature. Most of our dams are stocked with trout near in the tailwaters. So, for example, if you look at this one, it shows that the temperature at Paintsville Lake, of the water coming out of Paintsville Lake, which tends to be cold, is 61 degrees. That's going to be a good temperature to fish for trout. If it gets into the 70s, 80s, the water temperature, which it doesn't in Paintsville, but if it did, you're not going to want to go fishing for trout. Bass, maybe. But anyway, each of these pieces of information you put together.
Yeah.
And again, it's a process of learning. But, if you've got tips or tricks or things that you do with this same information or things that we're missing on this, feel free to comment and let us know. But again, it's just a way to become a better fisherman and to kind of maximize the best of your time.
There's no such thing as a professional. It's just a God-given right.
There you go. Being prepared is something that has to happen year-round, right, Devin?
Absolutely.
So we're in the summer, we're in the doldrums as far as hunting goes, but there's still things to do, right?
Absolutely. This time, I usually shoot around the 4th of July. I know most people think of upcoming deer season. Trail cameras are usually, we're in a trail cam world now. They make them cellular and all that. And I spend a lot of time cleaning the terminals for battery acid, things like that for trail cameras. Obviously, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Shooting your bow or crossbow, because September, bow season comes in. But other than that, I spend right around now. I will probably try to go actually in the next couple of weeks at least. But I go any of the stands I left hanging, which a lot of times I try to get them in February, March. But if any of them was left over till now, I go take them down, and I'm taking wrenches with me. I'm checking all those boats because number one, safety. Safety harness is one thing, but when you're going to check a stand one year to the next, you're thinking, "Well, I hung the stand. The stand's fine." Ratchet straps deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
Amazingly quick when left out in the weather that way. Little tires, and what's a tire this wide one year, next year, I have actually stepped on. I know one time in particular, had I not been wearing that safety harness, I might have went down.
Wow.
And honestly, what that was from was I neglected a stand one year to the next, and instead of climbing the tree and checking the stand, I just assumed I hung this last year. It's fine. Stepped on the platform that kind of gave, And like I said, that safety harness. Number one, above all, no deer, turkey, anything's worth losing your life over.
Right.
But I think a lot of people neglect that, and especially the ladder stands, where it's got a ladder to it, and the 2-man stands. People think, well, once it's there, it's like it's part of the tree. That's true, but it's also man-made.
Right. And trees grow and change.
Yes. And I was actually talking to a guy that runs archery shop last year, and he said that is one of the most other than archery and weapons, that's one of the most overlooked things when it comes to the outdoors and hunting, especially deer hunting, is overlooking that year to year.
Wow.
And it can cost you your life. I mean,
wow,
it happens all the time.
So now's the time to get out there
We're doing
checking.
If it's simply climbing the tree, taking the stand loose, climbing back to the ground, checking it all, and climbing right back up the tree and putting it right back on the tree, that's better than risking it.
Well, I mean, that's good advice. I mean, and it's that way with anything, but definitely, I know people aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about siding their guns and making sure.
And that's all part of it.
Yeah,
that's one of the overlooked aspects of
it. That absolutely makes sense.
Thing about it is, your weapon ain't on. You shoot, you miss an animal, there'll probably be another animal. You step on a tree stand and something's not tight, you might not get another chance.
And you're typically out in the woods and not reachable. That's nobody wants that to happen. So check your gear, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be.
And it's prime time. Nothing's really, especially in the world of deer hunting, it's another 2 months.
Yeah.
So now's the time to do it.
There you go. Well, again, it's about preparation. That's one of the things that that our outdoor sports definitely share. I mean, and definitely, if you're a hunter and you're itching to get out, now's a good time to go hike and hit the trails.
Absolutely.
Check out your local state or interstate parks, see what they've got going on. A lot of them have programs. I know the Breaks Interstate Park has programs going on. Jenny Wiley has kids fishing
tomorrow, as of today.
Yeah, it'll be after this comes out. But I mean, there's a lot of events going on like that. So definitely keep an eye on what's going on. And we'll try to keep you informed through our papers and kind of keep everybody out of the house, basically. But again, this has been the Appalachian Outdoors podcast. I'm Russ Cassidy and Devin Kidd, and we appreciate y'all watching.
Thank you all.